liberty and justice for all.
Okay. As far as roll call is concerned, all members are present. Notice I don't have a tie. I was at a conference yesterday. The governor attended. He never wears a tie. I figured if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. We have an agenda. We have a revised agenda. We're back to revised agendas.
This is a positive revision.
Revised still, nonetheless. Do we have a motion to accept the revised agenda?
Motion.
Do we have support?
Support.
Any discussion about that revision? The only revision is the action item at 10.4. That's the only change from what you received in your packet. Do we have I'm sorry, let's call the question. All in favor of accepting the revised agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Revised agenda is approved, 7-0. The first matter on that agenda would be the approval of the consent agenda, which is lengthy tonight. It includes minutes from our meetings of September 16, October 2, and October 7 of this year. It contains the expenditure reports for the month of September of this year. We have some personnel matters, which would include overnight or extended travel for Ms. Lenhard, Mr. Weber to attend the Michigan Joint Social Studies Conference, Mr. Stiver to attend the Michigan Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Convention, and Mr. Hopkins to attend the JAMF Nation User Conference. And now we have a long list of new hires. Justin Malberg, special ed teacher for Tyrone. Cecilia, I'll try this, Eads, follow that kid at Beacon. Letitia Kelly, the reading math interventionist at Tyrone. Lucretia Petway, follow that kid at the high school. Jamie Sampson, a latchkey aide at Beacon. Don Ulisha Paget Smith, follow that kid at Beacon. Crystal White, the S3 building liaison at secondary campus. Kawanda Griffin, paraprofessional at Tyrone. Benjamin Alamon, custodian at Beacon. Michael Jones, an academic instructor for ATS, which is Diploma Success. Anthony Jones, building trades instructor at ATS. Regina Young, a lunchroom supervisor at Tyrone. Linda Weddington, follow that kid at Tyrone. Sharon Dye, special education teacher at the high school. And one resignation, Shatara Shazir, the middle school cheerleader coach at the middle school. Do any board members wish to have any of these matters removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll call the question on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did we do a motion?
We don't.
I don't think,
We don't do
a motion, yes, okay. All in favor of, okay, all in favor, we'll try it again. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to 6.0, which is correspondence. Mr. Keene, has the board received any correspondence?
It has, and it's all been forwarded to board members.
Thank you. That then brings us to the district activities. We'll start out with Beacon. Ms. Gottlieben, if you could bring us up to date as to what's going on at Beacon.
Happy to. Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy Halloween. Well, we just finished our interim assessing for kindergarten, first and second grade. Mr. Rabideau had that set up for us, so we got to observe. We don't get any scores back for this, but we got to watch the children take the test, kind of interact with it. I got one wrong on the kindergarten test. Yes, I did. So it is a little tricky. The questions are easy, but the technology part is a little tricky. So, learning when it says when you have to match a word with a picture and such. So I think it'll really be very helpful for us when the actual test comes into play for us. The kindergarten entry assessment is on its way. They're all logged in. Teachers have been observing. It's the first 45 days of kindergarten. It's all observable. So it's about 40 hours of observing kindergarten, the 5-year-old. in every aspect of their development. So it's going to provide some really great information for parents as well as teachers, some great baseline. This is not a year that it's going to really count, but again, it was Mr. Rabideau who kind of got us up and running, and they're well underway. Mr. Hopkins has assembled his second and third grade SWAT teams, so we now have the wire man, the picture man, the producer, the director. I've only been the star of the show so far, but starting next week, we're going to put some Beacon children in the limelight, some academic achievement, some classroom activities, and announcements. So it's been very exciting. The kids love to see it on the big screen. I want to remind parents, Mondays seem to be a really tough day to get us to school on time. Please, wind down Sunday evening, get our students to bed and get them to school on time on Monday. We went on a second page for tardies this Monday, so I just don't want that to become a habit. So please get them in bed on time and to school on time on Monday mornings. We have a elementary parent organization meeting next Tuesday at Tyrone. Beacon sold $88,300 worth of candy in our candy sale, of which we get 40%. So thank you to all of those parents and people who bought all this candy. You blew me out of the water with your generosity.
I think the dentists around here are probably thanking you.
Right, I know. Well, we don't serve any candy at Beacon anymore, so we made up for it in our candy sale. Conferences are November 13th and 14th. Hopefully you have that on your calendar. Our annual trunk or treat is a week from tomorrow, October 29th at 5 o'clock. You have to be registered, so we are still taking the registration. That's open for Beacon and Tyrone students and their families. So please be sure to get your RSVPs in. Miss P will probably be speaking about our gizmos on Thursday night. They were here a couple years ago, if you remember. It was a resounding success. We're doing it again, only this time at Tyrone. So far, we have about 100 Beacon, from Beacon attending. It's a $10 coupon that'll give you to buy a game at the table. It's a store in Warren. So please come out and enjoy the games, the learning games, and get a $10 game for free. Very excited, WCCC, Mr. Biederwolf's claim to fame. We will be attending Real Men Read on Thursday for 2 hours. They're picking second grade up at Beacon and taking us over to the campus where they will be having their staff do some activities with our students, and the theme is Real Men Read. So very excited for Thursday, and advance thank you to Mr. P for setting that up for us. So very great partnership there. DSO is coming up on November 3rd. The brass, the winds, and the strings will be rotating 20-minute visits to all of our classrooms. And then on November 12th, there will be an all-school webinar where the DSO presents at a student level all about the instruments. And then on January 7th, they do a full school symphony. So very excited for this upcoming event. We have a Tech PD on November 4th. So again, the technology going on at Beacon is unbelievable. I've been sitting in a kindergarten room with a new kindergartner who's a bit reluctant. So he and I have been spending a lot of time together, so I've kind of sat in a kindergarten room again in Miss Simpson's class, and she's on a tech committee. And just what's going on with these iPads is amazing. And we are also sending 4 staff members to a PD at RISA called Culturally Responsive Instruction. And it's all about, how do we reach our at-risk learners, and certainly, how to get the best achievement from them. Any questions?
You spoke to your tardies on Monday. How have they been throughout the week, though, in general? Better than past?
Yes. I mean, we've been keeping it in check. We have a sheet, so it's a 2-column sheet, so I kind of get a visual on that. And we haven't even been filling up one column, and one column's about 23, so we have 431 as of today, 432 maybe, and 25 tardies. Do the math on that. Not bad. But, you know, we are talking Monday, we had over probably 60.
Okay, so Monday's the problem.
Monday
Before
seemed-
our late start was the problem, that transitions went well.
Right, right. The parents are very happy. I mean, they don't seem to have, you know, they like the fact that it's every day, you know, the same every day in terms of start time and end time. So it just seems like Monday might be a little bit of a pattern going on, so, and children are exhausted. So we need to just kind of wind down the weekend early on Sunday so we can get to school. Because especially for my kids, when they don't get that first 30-minute instruction, they're off the whole day. You know, they didn't tune in, they didn't plug into the classroom rituals and routines, and it's very difficult on them. They play catch up all the rest of the day.
Plus they miss breakfast.
Well, we usually feed them breakfast. I mean,
You
it's always
comment-
kind of out on the table till
Okay.
probably, you know, 9 o'clock, so. But still, you know, they need to be plugged in.
Yeah, I understand that, but maybe you should cut back on
Take away their breakfast.
the time on that. Don't,
Right. Well, one of the things that if they're late, they don't get to choose a B lunch. So that's one thing we've said, you know, if you don't get to choose lunch, A or B. If you come late,
Okay, so now what you need to do is you need to make a lunch something undesirable.
okay, Mr. King, you come and tell a kindergartner that they have to eat yogurt and string cheese instead of chicken nuggets. Not so much.
how's the, I don't know how you phrase it, but taking the kids out early during the day? The early pickups, is that?
You know, again, you know, we shut our doors at 10 to 3. I don't let anybody in after 10 to 3 because children are moving about the building, getting their coats and hats. So the parents know that if they're going to come, they have to come before 10 to 3. That's the last 20 minutes of the day. So that helps too.
But has it
Oh, yeah.
decreased since the new schedule?
Yeah, yeah, I would say it has.
That's
sure.
good. Anybody else have anything? All right, thank you. And now we'll hear from the principal of Tyrone.
You don't know how to say the name yet, do you? Did you need me to do this? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Selvin. As Mrs. Gottlieben said, this Thursday is our Math Gizmo night. I want to thank Mr. Wallace. I asked him to take lead on this. It is an event for Beacon and Tyrone families, and it is this Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Tyrone School. It's a fun night for the kids. They'll get the opportunity to learn, and parents will get an opportunity to learn a variety of games they can play to help keep their children's math skills up. They'll have, if they pre-register, and if you need another form, you can just call the office. We'll send one home with your child. You'll get a coupon then for $10 off of a math game. I want to thank the staff because, you know, this night event needs a lot of staff. And I put it out to Beacon and Tyrone staff. And by the next day, we had the like 17 staff members that we need to volunteer to teach the kids these games. It was that quick. So thanks to the staff as well. As Mrs. Gottlieben said, Beacon and Tyrone had their candy sale fundraiser for the fall. I don't know the exact money Tyrone made, so I'll be looking for it. I know we did well. Okay, $4,200. I guess they know. And just hasn't got communicated yet back to Tyrone. And so I want to remind parents on November 14th that they pick up their candy orders from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. However, I'm still trying to find out whether that is at Tyrone students pick it up at Tyrone? It's all at Beacon, okay. That's what happens when the board president, the EPA president's over at Beacon, and I don't get this information all the time. So for the parents at Tyrone, you pick up your candy orders on November 14th from 2 to 6 o'clock at Beacon. We had on October 9th, we had our safeties who were sworn in. It was the last time Judge LaRose will be coming to our school and swearing in our safeties. He does a good job of talking with the students about, you know, the importance of respecting our safeties. He then has the safeties take their oath, and he kind of talks to the students about, you know, these students are in charge and what their role is at school, and then he reminds the safeties that they're role models. And so Judge LaRose did come over and do that, and then we gave him a big round of applause, and we wish him luck on his retirement. On October 6th, from 7:30 to 2:30, this last October, oh, that's why I wanted my phone. I need to do a real big thank you to a couple of people. Beaumont Hospital, well, as you know, Tyrone lost most of their playground equipment last spring. We had to tear a lot of it down because it was made out of wood 20 years ago, and the wood was rotting, and we discovered that this playground equipment, much of it, wasn't safe for students. So we had to take it out in the spring, and we're working on trying to get some new playground equipment for Tyrone. But in the meanwhile, we partner with Beaumont Hospitals for Project Healthy Schools, and at the end of the spring, we talked to Hannah Reisinger, and she said, let me see if I can put some feelers out. Maybe we could get something, And she hooked us up with Playworks, which is an organization who we're hoping to really get involved with next year through our school improvement plan. We had hoped this year, but they weren't able to take on another school, so they're booking us for next year. And through Beaumont donated all of the playground paint. They paid for all of it. And they also we had about 45 volunteers show up at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Many of them were Beaumont Hospital workers. There were some City Year and Playworks. And they came on Saturday. I opened up the school for them. And we painted the playground with Foursquare, with hopscotch, with just cool words for wall ball. And I have a picture on my phone because I do want to show you. You can't imagine what this looks like. So let me show you real quick. Because when they said they were going to paint the playground, I thought, okay, we're going to get some colorful lines. They did make some basketball courts. But this is what I'm telling you. This is what the playground looks like. I mean, if you kind of scroll through. It's not just, they made a couple lines. There's some really great things that they came. And the entire playground, that's why I said you have to see it. Because the entire blacktop now has a variety of games on it. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, it really, there's our hopscotch. And like I said, it was just ordinary workers from Beaumont Hospital who gave up an entire Saturday and did this for us, as well as some people from Playworks and a few City Year kids. So I just really want to thank them. We've made them thank you cards. We have a big banner. I didn't realize who he was. The president of Beaumont Hospitals came out to the playground and painted for a while. And, I didn't know who he was, so I wasn't, probably as an awe I should have. And when he left, they were like, do you know who that was? And I'm like, no, I thought he was just a worker. So we're going to send them the pictures that we have. But I do want to thank them. The kids knew nothing about it. So Monday, it was really fun to watch them discover when they came to the blacktop what had been done over the weekend. And even the lineup area, it's a bunch of circles, and it's really just cool looking. It's just to help them line up. But they've already invented some game on these giant circles. They just made up a game, and now they're playing it all the time. So it really was a great thing, a great sense of community, and thank you again to Beaumont Hospitals for organizing this and paying for this. It was really nice to meet all the people that came out on that day. And the best thing was, on Monday, we talked at length as a school. One of our pillars is citizenship. And that's a hard one to get kids to understand what citizenship is. And so in the classrooms, as well as over, for the whole school, we talked about these were people who don't know us. They have no idea who you are. You are not their children. They're not your students. They just work in the community, and they gave up an entire Saturday just to come help our school. That's what citizenship is. So it really was a cool lesson for our kids. DTE is coming to work with our fourth graders on October 28th. They give each child a kit that helps them to go home, and it has all kinds of ways that they can help. You saw it's really some cool stuff. How they can, save energy within their home, and it's one of the science units that we teach. So we're looking forward to that. I'd also like to give a shout out to Kroger, who donated supplies to us. I think I may have mentioned this before, but thank you again to the Krogers over on Harper. They gave us a bunch of school supplies, and we kind of auctioned it off on count day for the students who were there. A whole bunch of children, about 45 kids, won brand new school supplies. Trunk or treat is the 29th, which will be taking place at Beacon, so I'll have more information in our newsletter. Next week at Tyrone starts Red Ribbon Week. There's going to be a lot of special days for the students. And we're going to end Friday with Team Up Against Drugs, and students will be able to wear their team apparel on that day. Our first PBIS Reward Month is also next Friday. This month, in September, we did some basic rules and did a lot of, what we expect from students, what are major infractions, what are minor, what you change your color for, what might lead to detentions. We did a lot of how to talk respectfully and a lot of the pre-stuff. And then in October, we kicked off our first PBIS month, and it's Lines and Hallways. And the end of, on the 31st, those students who were able to have no more than 6 yellow changes and 1 orange, that's the qualification. They could have, up to 6 yellow and only 1 orange and nothing more than that. No reds, no blues, nothing more than that. They qualify for the PBIS reward, and we're going to play a big giant game in the gym of Jeopardy. We'll see how that goes. It should be fun. So they're excited about that. And then, as Mrs. Gottsleben said, the Beacon Tyrone, the EPA parent meeting will be on Tuesday at 6:30. This month, it is taking place at Tyrone Elementary. Questions?
Do you think perhaps we might be able to get some of those pictures on our website?
Yes, and we will. I'm just having a technical issue of every time, okay, I know this is stupid, but every time I send one of the pictures to my email, I'm not getting it. And there's a whole kind of issues with my email because of the whole name switch, but I can do it a lot of times, but for some reason
We'll get it done.
yeah, but as soon as I get that done, they'll go on the Facebook page, because Tyrone,
Problems, you?
I know, isn't that hard to imagine? Tyrone has its own Facebook page, so we'll put it on there as well as the website. There are just some wonderful pictures. I've got pictures of the volunteers just painting, and I didn't know what to expect. I really
Great
had no idea
See
what to
Mr.
expect.
Brooks, and we'll get that done. I love that idea. Thank you.
Yeah, so, but it was fun. Any other questions?
It's not a question for you, was anybody aware that Tyrone lost a lot of its playground equipment? Nope.
Oh, Tyrone lost a lot of its playground equipment.
Okay, well, you
know what?
After we hear from the audit, we might be able to consider in the
And
future.
Todd, and Mr. Beetewolf and Mr. Dennis have said, we're going to be working, it was just very unexpected right at the end of the school year.
So,
And
we
then
did
during
some-
the summer, we had to have people come out, and then they said, gotta take it. So but we have done some things, and the kids are not suffering right now, but we will get them something.
We will be bringing forward some recommendations. Mr. Dennis has initiated a site analysis. We've had some problems with some standing water, and so we're wondering how we mitigate that before we install new equipment, because we believe that water was contributing to the need to remove
There's a drainage
the
issue,
previous
as you know.
equipment.
And so until we fix that, it's a step-by-step process.
That's been going on for
Thank you.
years and years.
We've had Lake Tyrone for a
Lake
long
Tyrone as long
time.
as I can remember.
We're addressing it, at least we hope to.
It's been addressed to a point. It used to be included in the blacktop. That no longer really happens. It's still a drainage issue on the field, though.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, that brings us to the middle school. We're going to see a new face. The board at its last meeting voted to approve the hire, or the promotion, I guess you might call it, both hire or promotion, Mr. Filber from his teaching position to become the principal of the Harper Woods Middle School. So this is his inaugural address.
We'll go light on you.
My debut performance, if you will. And I was making a joke over there. I didn't know I'd have to follow pictures and multimedia presentations. So now
You
I'm
didn't bring
feeling
any?
lightheaded. Some middle school happenings in the last couple of weeks. One of the things that I've always kind of admired about what Tyrone was doing is some of the ways in which they work with their kids as far as different behaviors. And we heard about the PBS program and stuff like that they were doing. In an attempt to try to bring a little bit of that to our middle school, I've started a program called Modeling Mondays. We've done that the last 2 Mondays. The first Modeling Monday was working with the students on hallway expectations, again, going to and from class and to the lockers and things of that sort. We did that last Monday. This past Monday, we went ahead and did some Modeling Monday as far as assemblies and some of the things that we want to go ahead and do. So the staff went over the different expectations and the ways that we would want to go ahead and enter into an assembly, and then they were led into the auditorium where I then ambushed them for a good 20 minutes.
Before
to go
you-
ahead and
Go ahead. Before you go on, I just want to make clear, when we're talking about modeling, we're talking about modeling behavior?
Modeling behaviors.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry. So I sort of ambushed them once they got into the auditorium and gave them a little impromptu assembly. Talking about, which would be the second thing on my list, which would be, progress reports. Progress reports were sent home last Thursday. They were mailed home to families, and so families, if you haven't gotten it in the mail, make sure to look to make sure that it's there. To talk a little bit about our expectations and the things that we're doing academically in the middle school and some of the improvements and successes that we've had, that we want to go ahead and continue to do. So we went ahead and talked about that on our Modeling Monday this Monday. Coming up the next Monday, we're going to go ahead and work a little bit on our entrance and exit from the cafeteria, making sure that we go ahead and, clean up our areas and do the things that we need to do. Just some little things that, we can go ahead and work on and make sure that our students know the expectations and the way that we want things, to look on our secondary campus. So working with them on that. Mr. Rabideau and our tech team did a fantastic job in getting us ready for our online testing. We did a little bit of online testing in 8th grade, earth science. It was a very eye-opening experience. It was something that all of the teachers, we sort of made time so that all of our teachers could come in and take a look at the test so that we could see kind of how the online testing works. So that we can go ahead and get prepared for our state assessments in the springtime, so that we could go ahead and get a look at not only how the tests work, but how the students were able to go ahead and interact with those tests and the technology. And one of the things that sort of stood out to all the staff members was the rigor involved in the questions that were being asked. And so it was a great experience for us as a staff to be able to go ahead and look and see at what some of the things that the kids were doing and what's going to be expected of our kids in the future, so that we have, kind of an idea of where we want to go ahead and lead them. This past Friday, we participated in the dress down day that was held by our high school honor society for breast cancer awareness. The kids all had a good time, and they were looking good in their pink and everything else like that. They were teasing me. The only thing of pink that I own is a tie, so I had a little bit of pink on, but they didn't think I really fully participated, so they gave me a little bit of a hard time on that. I've gotten to spend the last couple of evenings watching some of our middle school sports teams play, and I want to go ahead and bring that up. One of the great things that I've always talked about as a teacher in the middle school is how the after-school activities and events start to help sort of make you become part of a member of the Harper Woods team, if you will. And so I got to watch our football team go ahead and win a big game today, so that was fun. And I've gotten to watch our volleyball girls play a couple of matches as well, and they're representing us well. In fact, Mr. Stiver made a point, wanted me to point out to all of you how proud he was of his girls and the way that they've been, performing both on and off the court, when we go to different locations. So very proud of all of that. Another thing that's kind of exciting, and it's kind of a tradition as well, the middle school band is going to go ahead and join the high school band this Friday evening. So they get an opportunity to see what it's like out on the football field under the lights and get a taste of the things that are going on. So something that I know our performers are excited about. And then as part of our African American Young Men of Promise initiative, our staff meeting tomorrow, myself and Mrs. Burns, we're going to go ahead and start working on two of our initiatives. It's academic vocabulary as well as positive phone calls home. So we're going to go ahead and work with our teachers to make sure that we can go ahead and start getting those initiatives rolled out in earnest here in the next couple of weeks. Any questions?
Yes, I just had one. The online testing that the staff had a chance to take a look at, which test format, or what test was it?
It was an 8th grade earth science test. Actually, a 9th grade earth science test, I believe. But we wanted to make sure that all the teachers of all the subjects kind of got an idea of exactly how the online testing would work. There are some different buttons and different tools that the students were able to use in the testing. If they wanted to cross out answers that they knew were wrong, if they wanted to highlight specific words, if they weren't sure about a question and wanted to leave it, they could flag it and go back to it. So just some of the different things that the students were able to go ahead and do, we thought that it would be a pretty good idea that all of our staff getting a chance to go ahead and look at it, even though the subject area was only science that we tested this fall.
This is like a reference to the MEP test?
Yeah, it was an MDE pilot.
Okay, but, all right, because that's what I was
Yes.
trying to figure out.
Just if my memory serves me correct, that's on postponement until next year, correct?
No, online assessment will occur this spring.
Okay. Oh,
What day?
What's that called?
But it's not the smart
It's
balance.
not the smarter
That's not
balance.
The non-smarter balance, but smarter balance.
It is a continuation
Of
somewhat of a meat type structure.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Filber.
And I do believe, since, I'm the new guy and I'm the first, my first time, I might as well do it a second time. Mr. Rosser, because he is coming back from the conference, has asked me to go ahead and give the high school update, if you guys don't mind.
Nope.
Nope.
If you haven't heard my voice enough, we can go and do a little more. Spirit Week was outstanding. Students and staff alike enjoyed the fun-filled occasion and in a very tasteful manner. Again, different dress-down days, different events where the students were able to go ahead and sort of express their school pride. Of course, our pep assemblies and everything else like that, all were big successes. The homecoming parade and game went well. Thank you to staff members, community members, and students for participating. Homecoming parade was my first ever homecoming parade, and I learned to watch out for flying candy and stuff like that. But otherwise, it was a good time. The homecoming dance was a very auspicious occasion that was safely enjoyed by all. Thank you to parents and staff members for your assistance. The first learning teams meeting was implemented seamlessly into the fold. Our second learning team meeting will take place tomorrow. Select staff members received training sponsored by the MDE this week entitled Crucial Conversations. Training is designed to provide a roadmap to navigate the uncharted waters of difficult conversations and subjects. Progress reports were both handed out and mailed home last week. Parents, please follow up with your child's teacher as needed. And we look forward to our technology training tomorrow, another part of their Wednesday early morning PD. So besides learning teams, they also have some tech training going on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 8.0 and 8.1 on our agenda, which is a presentation of the 2013-2014 fiscal audit. And we have a representative here from Raymond Robson. Mr. Dennis, did you want to make any introduction?
No, please.
I'd like to introduce Nate Balderman. Nate, you guys met Nate 2 weeks ago at the workshop meeting, and I think he's pretty much going to cover what you saw then, but for the public viewing. So Nate, please.
And sorry we're running behind. It seems like whenever you're here, we're running behind.
No, I don't know what it is, but it's just me. Usually have bigger crowds than this too, but everybody comes out for the audit. So I'm going to go over briefly what I did before. The document you had at the workshop was a draft. There has been just a couple of insignificant changes to the audit. So nothing big that I feel really need to point out. Just some things that needing to tie things out at the end. Just kind of walk you through the report again like I did before. The audit opinion is the first couple of pages. As I said before, we were expecting, and we did give a clean opinion, which is what you're looking for, considered to be an unqualified opinion. It is not an absolute assurance that we give in those opinions. There is a level of materiality that we're looking at, those types of things, but the opinion that you get basically tells you that the information there, we believe that you can rely on to make good decisions. Where the financial statements really start is on page 13. These are the government-wide financial statements. This is full accrual basis of accounting, more like what you see in a government. Like I pointed out before, you ended the year on a full accrual basis. That's all taking into account all your debt, capital assets, and everything. Ended up with a deficit of 1.7 million. A lot of that has to do with the fact of when your debt gets paid, how it gets stretched out using the school bond loan fund, that type of thing. However, that number is, small compared to what it's going to be next year with the change in standards. Next year, the accounting standards have changed, and they're now going to require you to report the liability for your portion, which MIPSers will come up with how they determine what that is, but your portion of the unfunded liability in 2012, 12, the last time they had really good numbers on that. They estimated the liability for the state, total liability for the state that was unfunded to be about $25 billion. So your share of that in the estimates is about 18 million. So that's going to come through as a prior period adjustment next year on your government-wide financial statements, and you'll end up with a very large deficit. I don't really know of anybody that's not going to have a deficit after next year in those government-wide statements. But again, it's an accounting thing. It's not, doesn't directly impact your general fund. It's not going to show up in your general fund and showing a deficit.
Will it affect bond ratings at all?
It's not expected to. I mean, I think
It's
that
affecting everybody?
it is affecting everybody. So across the board, it's going to be there. I mean, I've heard different presentations as they were coming up with this a few years ago when the standards were first being introduced, and there was a lot of concern that our bondholders going to, or the rating agency is going to take this into account. And well, yes, but they've been taking into account all along. They knew those liabilities were out there. It's not new to them that it's there, so it's not. They didn't expect that it would have a big impact, if any impact at all, on ratings. You go to page 16. This is your balance sheet for your funds, and this is on the modified accrual basis. It's what based on how you budget, that type of thing. So list your general fund, your debt service fund, and then your food service fund as well. At the end of the year, the next to last line, there you show total fund balance. For the general fund was about $2,067,000. Your debt service fund, you had about $153,000, and then your food service fund had $335,000 at year end. If you go to page 18, this is the income statement for those funds. And you can see there that there were increases in each fund, slight increases, from the levels that they were last year. Page 20 is your income or your budget to actual statement for your general fund. This gives you, a little bit more detail on the general fund, and you can see also where your budget lined up versus where the actual amounts were. And you can see there that overall the planned increase was about $203,000 at the end of the year. And then when the numbers actually came in, once all accruals were done and everything, the actual increase was about $89,000. That was, in terms of financial statements, what I wanted to highlight. There's a lot of more detailed information in there. The second part of our audit is the single audit. That's the audit of the federal awards. This year we looked at actually 4 different programs as a part of that. The Child Nutrition Cluster, the School Improvement Grant, the Special Education Cluster, and then the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is a new program, but based on the risk and everything, we had to select that this year because it was a newer program. There were some findings that we had in the audit. During that, we looked at internal controls. There was a matter related to an audit adjustment that had to be made. Again, standards have changed from what it used to be, where if we have any kind of audit adjustment that's significant or material that we detect, that's part of our procedures, then we have to include it as a finding. So that matter was there, but it was an adjustment that was made. I mean, the financial statements are correct. It's just something that got included there. And then we also had a couple of other findings in the special education cluster and the school improvement grants related to some payroll documentation. There's very specific documentation rules on how you have to document things currently. And if those aren't followed, you have to include, we have no choice but to include it as a finding. Not that it's all one of those things I always clarify. It's not that the money was misspent, it's that the documentation was there, and they kind of treat it the same way. It's actually going to loosen up a little bit when the new federal regs come into effect in a couple of years. They've actually loosened it up where there's going to be more flexibility in how you document that time. So actually somewhat looking forward to it, although at the same time it's one of those very loose regulations that might cause some I want to say disagreements between clients and auditors, but there's a lot more wiggle room in the standards. So, and then the other issue was related to suspension debarment that in some contracts. Again, there was nothing improper about the contracts. It's just in terms of specifically following the guidelines and not having the proper documentation, everything in the files. So. Those were the issues that I had. You also have the other letter like you had before. Any of the issues related to that are are not considered to be significant, just kind of more of, these are things that we could say, that we saw that could take you to the next level in improving internal controls. So that, I would welcome any questions.
So bottom line, our fund balance is what?
Your fund balance for the general fund was
I'll answer that question.
$2,067,000.
Pardon me?
$2,067,000.
Okay, and what does that come out to as a percentage? Any idea? Mr. Beadle may have that answer.
Depending if you're looking at the fiscal year that's been audited, it's about 12% of the budget, but that includes our school improvement grant funding. If you look at that, a percentage of budget of the current fiscal year, it's about 14.5%.
I like that one better.
I do too.
And used to be 15% was ideal, or that was what everybody strove for.
Yeah, it's a pretty common, it depends on what your goals are in terms of what you have for fund balance, because some people, if their goal is to not have to borrow anything, do any short-term borrowing, that kind of stuff, you're gonna have to have a higher balance, that type of thing, but.
That's a good point. Does that mean that we're not going to have to be borrowing from the state to pay our bills?
We'll have to borrow less to pay back
Less?
the loan, yes,
Okay.
as we did this year.
Mr. Balderman, if I might ask, in your experiences working with other school districts in the economic environment today, would that, whether it be 12% or 14.5% of the annual budget, be above what you typically see or below what you typically see?
I would say it's probably above. I mean, we have a lot of districts, that are, we have some that are in deficit. We have some, I was presenting at one last week that, they had $4 million in fund balance last year. They used $2 million of it, and, one of those where they're in dire straits. They may end up going into a deficit in this next year. So, a lot of districts are still struggling. And so, the place where you're at in your fund balance is, very healthy, especially compared to those, so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
A comment?
Drive safely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balderman. A comment, if I may, Mr. Selburn?
Sure.
In my role as superintendent, I would just like to acknowledge the leadership of the Board of Education. I believe that this is the fourth consecutive year where our revenues have exceeded our expenditures. In the just audited fiscal year, again, our fund balance grew. That outcome is achieved even though we made significant capital investments. We improved the parking lots on all of our campuses. The board invested in one-to-one technology for all of our students. The board added athletic programs for our middle school. A lot of investments and enhancements occurred across the district, and even with those investments, we still came in, if you will, over budget, and we saw our fund balance grow yet again. As I said previously, I believe that is the fourth consecutive year, and so I would just like to acknowledge and recognize the board's financial leadership that they've provided, the management of the district's finances that Mr. Dennis has performed, and as well recognize our administrative team and how it is that they're working to support our budget parameters and so forth. As our auditor acknowledged, we're in, comparatively speaking, a very good place, and that's no accident. So I appreciate the fact that collectively we're managing the district well, and many individuals have played a significant role in that, including, no question, the board.
Well, thank you on behalf of the board. And Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Dennis,
Thank you very
for
much.
another easygoing, successful, no problems audit. Right?
Yeah, I started off with tan hair, but other than that, we're fine.
When did they start this audit?
Right.
And I imagine the teachers may be paying closer attention to that fund balance.
Yes, there are some new
There.
characteristics in our contract that kind of represent a partnership, and indeed.
So they also help contribute to our healthy financial
They
picture.
did indeed.
Yes, sir. Well said.
Okay, that brings us to, oh, I'm sorry, I was almost skipped something. Public participation regarding action items. So if you have any comments that you care to address to the board regarding our action items, please step up and tell us what's on your mind. If you wanted to speak to us about matters other than the action items, there will be an opportunity a little later in the meeting. All right, seeing no one, we will now turn to those action items. The first one is 10.1, which is concerning the fiscal audit, and this is found on page 106 in your packet. Yes, you heard that right, 106. Okay. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education accept the annual audit prepared by Raymond Robson for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2014, as presented. Do we have a motion? We have support. Support. Okay, the rationale for this, unless you wanted to present it, Mr. Peter.
No, sir.
The rationale behind this is that Raymond Robson has completed the report per the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, otherwise known as the GASB, a single audit of our federal grant funds and an audit of the financial statements of each fund at the June 30, 2014 have been found to be in compliance with generally accepted accounting procedures. The Board of Education from the Harperwood School District met with representatives from Raymond Robson to discuss their findings and to answer any questions. Do we have any discussion on the motion before us to approve the audit? All right, seeing none. All in favor of the motion to accept the audit, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion is approved, 7-0. Next item on our revised agenda is the 14-15 budget adjustment 1, and that is on, I'll have it in a second here. Oh, 107, next page. Okay. There is a recommended motion that the Board of Education approves the attached 2014-15 Budget Amendment 1. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have support?
Support.
Okay. Mr. Beederwolf, should I skip right over you and go to Mr. Dennis?
No, I will steal a little of the thunder here, perhaps all depending, so I may get nudged subsequently. But in the second most column from the right represents the budget that the Board of Education originally adopted, representing the 14 fiscal year earlier this summer in June. And at that time, you know, as we've just kind of celebrated, we were again projecting an increase in our overall fund balance. And as the board is aware, we have surpassed our enrollment targets. And so as we bring forward this Budget Amendment 1, we're able to strengthen the amount of funding by which we believe, and we are anticipating that our revenues will outpace our expenses. And, you know, again, we see examples of the board continuing to make investments across the district. The board has added staffing at the elementary level to control class sizes. The board has added a swimming program for our high school male and female student athletes. And the board, pending their further action this evening, has returned the secondary campus to a 2-administrator model. And so, again, it's pretty exciting to see us being able to continue to invest in the district while simultaneously not only maintaining, but we anticipate strengthening our financial stability, if you will. And so I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm going to steal a little bit of that thunder.
I have one question, Mr. Beardwell.
Yes, sir.
With this, the budget amendment and the anticipated, if everything ends up as projected, that fund balance at the end of the year would represent what percentage, if you know?
We will definitely be, or at least we anticipate that we will be reaching that board policy of 15%.
Okay, that's great. Okay, you wanted, Mr. Dennis was going to have something to say about all this, too?
Well, he may tell me I've said everything, I don't know.
The documents we have in front of you on 108 and 109, we did go over in detail at the workshop. As Mr. Beardwell pointed out, as opposed to last year where we were very aggressive in our headcount projection, we have 3 additional students at this time in our partners' diploma success and the virtual school. Again, contributing healthily to our balance. We're predicting an additional 115 FTE from them. And as you're aware, we get 25% of the revenue for those students, but nevertheless, they are a major contributor to our increase that we're projecting. As Mr. Bidwell said, the original projection was $130,000 addition to the fund balance. The proposal that I have in front of you is an additional $198,000, which will put us in at $328,000 over, or additional fund balance at the end of the year. Not to belabor this, we did talk about this at the workshop meeting also, about the need to be a little more proactive on my part as far as providing you budget amendments. So this is the first of what I assume will be several that will be presented to you before June 30th of 2015.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the motion to approve Budget Amendment 1 for the current budget, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion is approved, 7-0.
This amendment, as well as the auditing documents, will be on the website within the next few days.
Great. That brings us to 10.3, which is to nominate a MASB delegate assembly, I think. Pardon? 110? We good to go with that, Ms. Williams?
Oh, yeah. it might
Oh,
be
I heard there might have been a,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, it comes with the schedule, so.
Okay, I didn't get to page 110. I fell asleep. And I'm like, oh, man, you're going to pay for that. Okay, we have a recommended motion that the Board of Education approves the MASB's process of certifying delegates and alternates for the delegate assembly on behalf of the Harperwood School District, and furthermore selects Jean Hall II as the delegate for the Harperwood School District at the MASB's 2014 delegate assembly. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Do we have a second on that? Support. Okay, any discussion? You're going to be there, Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Great. Representing us.
Yes.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of having Mr. Hall represent us at the MASB conference, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion is approved, 7-0. Okay, that brings us to another very important action item, which is 10.4, which is a recommendation to hire, and that recommendation is to hire Sharonda Collier as principal of the Harper Woods High School. We don't have a prepared motion, so I will just ad-lib it. And the motion would be, the recommended motion then would be that the Board of Education approves the recommendation to hire Sharonda Collier as the principal of the Harper Woods High School. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Motion?
Do we have support?
Support.
Okay, you want to lead us on this one, Mr. Beederwolf, I imagine?
With pleasure, Mr. Soburn, thank you. And so what is it that I and the members of the selection committee saw in candidate Sharanda Collier? First, we saw a track record of success. We saw an individual who has been a principal before, and an individual whereby the role of principal would therefore not be new to her in her professional career. We saw an individual that has been a lead decision maker successfully previously. We saw a professional who has worked in both urban and suburban settings under a variety of circumstances. We saw someone that we believed would be highly adaptive. We saw someone that we believed would be very strong in her instructional knowledge. We saw someone that we believed would be a student advocate, and we saw someone who would be as well a teacher advocate and a community advocate. Further, we believe that we have identified a candidate who will stay with us for several years, and that's something that we have identified as a need. And it's an issue, frankly, that I in particular have pushed on. And part of what it is that Ms. Collier told me is that she said that while her career had at one point taken her to another state here within our nation, that it was family that brought her back to the Detroit area. And it's interesting to me to see Sharanda here tonight with so many of her family representatives joining her. And that's exciting to me. And, that's what she said. She said it was family that brought me back to the Metro Detroit area. And we believe that it's one of the reasons that she will, as she said when she was on campus last week, I think she used the phrase stick. And I thought that's a kind of a neat way to express that type of a concept. I was very impressed with her letters of recommendation, and frankly, I don't often put a lot of weight in letters of recommendation. But as I read them, I was struck by the fact that I had no reason to believe that those recommenders knew each other, but there were very consistent themes that were identified across those various letters of recommendation. And it helped to convey to the committee and I that we truly knew via what was expressed in those letters who it was that we were considering as a candidate and what it is that candidate would bring to her potential role as principal here in Harper Woods. In speaking with one of those references, I asked that reference a little bit about, how does Ms. Collier manage student behavior, and she was described as tough. And I know that that's something that our staff feels that they need, that type of leadership and that type of partnership in regard to. And so I will tell you that I am professionally and personally excited to bring this recommendation to the Board of Education. As the board knows, we've put in extensive effort. We've taken some different steps. Ms. Collier was gracious enough to come on her own time and to spend half a day on campus, seeing our school in action, meeting some of our kids, and meeting and interacting with our staff members and members of the Board of Education as well last Friday. And so put it all together, and I absolutely believe that candidate Sharanda Collier will roll up her sleeves and dive into the work that needs to be done to continue in partnership with student, staff, the community, the board, the district, to keep us on the move. And that's been our phrase for this year, and I think that overall we've heard a number of examples of that tonight. And so accordingly, I am bringing forward tonight to the Board of Education of the City of Harper Woods Schools a recommendation on behalf of Ms. Sharanda Collier for the position of principal of Harper Woods High School.
Any questions? Mr. Beadwolf, could you just real briefly explain the nominating process?
A number of different steps have occurred.
You referenced the committee, and I'm just wondering, this was not just your sole decision?
Absolutely not. We met with a committee. We had staff representation. In some iterations, we had parent representation. In the particular instance of Ms. Collier, we did not have parent representation. However, we had excellent student representation, and so we engaged in a committee process. I have met subsequently and privately with Ms. Collier on 2 separate occasions, and as well as I indicated, she spent a half day on campus here last Friday, meeting kids, interacting with staff, and interacting with several members of the Board of Education as well.
Teachers were involved in that process?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the hire of Sharanda Collier as the principal of the Harper Woods High School, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion is approved. The hire is approved, 7-0. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Ms. Collier, please introduce yourself to board members who have not yet had a chance to meet you and to the Harper Woods community.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the board and local community. I am overcome. I don't even know how to follow.
Just so you know, this is recorded and it'll be cable cast next week.
No pressure.
No pressure.
And the web.
Thank you, Mr. Beadle, for such a gracious introduction and synopsis of my body of work.
Don't let it go to your head.
No. I truly find that I love advocating for children. I went into education not ever thinking that I would be here. I thought that I would be in the classroom in the niche of it all with the students. However, I have had some successes with student data and with achievement, which drew me from the classroom, and others just saw potential in me that I had not identified myself. So I thank you for seeing that same potential. It is my goal. I take the charge, not lightly at all, to enhance student achievement, to draw in parents, to continue to improve the community perception of Harper Woods School, and just to have you all shining, or us now, as the gem that you are here in this community. So I thank you, and I'm ready to work.
You brought some guests. Who might some of those folks be?
Geez. I brought both of my mothers. I have my mother and my godmother. I have my grandmother, my aunt, my father. My son is in the hallway with my niece, whom I care for, and a very dear friend, two dear friends. Brandy Lewis is already here on your staff, but she and I have been friends for quite some time. So my support team is strong, and they all will be enlisted in whatever we need. So,
Principal Collier, we're glad to have you here.
thank you.
We will look forward to your first day of work on Wednesday, October 28th. That's 1 week from tomorrow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome again.
Okay. That brings us to board items, and that would include subcommittee reports. Do any chairs of any of the committees have anything to report? I'll lead off. The Policy Committee will be meeting this Thursday, 2 nights from tonight at 6 p.m. We'll be meeting with the Neola representative to go over hopefully 2 batches of new proposed policies. Any other committee chairperson have anything to add? Okay, hearing none. That brings us to 12.0, the report of the superintendent, Mr. Biederwolf.
So first, just to kind of reinforce some of the things that Principal Gottlieben spoke of, I don't think I had made the board aware, because I was kind of just waiting for the right time to kind of share the good news of our new partnership for this school year with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. As Ms. Gottlieben has indicated, we have DSO members who are coming, introducing our students to instruments, providing some cultural activities, and so on and so forth. That will be occurring throughout the district at all grade levels. I certainly want to acknowledge the leadership of Ms. Shannon Casey Rogers, our instrumental music instructor, in that, as well as some background work that has been performed by our parent engagement specialist, Ms. Whitelow, as well. And as Principal Gottlieben indicated, the culminating activity will be, the DSO will be here in the house, in our auditorium, on our stage, providing a free concert for the students of Harper Woods Schools. And so that date will be on, I believe it's a Tuesday, but I know the date is January 7th. And so we're really excited about that. And then the second thing that I want to speak to tonight is, as I think I typically do at this time of year, is the upcoming election day on Tuesday, November 4th. And this is the United States of America, and we are a democracy. And part of the reason why the United States of America has a free public education for all is that everybody in our nation has a unique right, when they turn 18, the right to vote. And it's an important foundational aspect of why it is that we have a public school system. It is a responsibility that is entrusted to that public school system to create an educated electorate population, so that our adults can go to the voting booth and cast their ballots in a well-informed, well-reasoned manner. It is a foundation that makes the United States the great nation that it is, and the educational community plays a significant role in preparing young people as they transition into adulthood to be ready to perform in that function. And so in that spirit, I encourage our Harper Woods community to exercise that still in our world unique right, the right to vote, to determine your own destiny, to play your role, and to have your voice be heard. There are important issues on the ballot this year, as always, including a gubernatorial election, which often significantly affects the extent to which schools and how it is that schools are funded here in the state of Michigan. And so I encourage our Harper Woods community and our registered voters to consider carefully how it is that they cast their ballot and the decisions that they make in that upcoming election, as well as the national Senate race. More locally, it is a significant election as well, and this is the last time that this body will meet in advance of that election, so I want to take advantage of this opportunity. It will be a significant election for the Harper Woods Board of Education as well. The law has changed. Typically, only 2 or 3 board seats have been on a ballot during any electoral cycle. But recently that law has changed, and as a result of that, in alternating 2-year periods, there will be 3 and or 4 seats of voting determination on each ballot here in Harper Woods for 4-year terms. My point is that on Tuesday, November 4th, there will be 4 seats on the Harper Woods Board of Education up for election. We're fortunate that we have strong community involvement. We have 6 candidates, and 3 of those candidates are incumbents. My understanding is the ballot does not identify them as incumbents. We have 6 candidates for 4 seats, including 3 incumbents, Mr. David Keene, Ms. Joan Marino, and Mr. Gene Hall III. So as in all elections, I simply encourage the Harper Woods community to consider carefully how it is that they cast their ballots, and equally importantly, get out there, exercise that right. It is still a unique right in the world. Be a participant in the election on Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterwolf. Okay, that brings us to 13.0, which is public participation. If any members of the community care to address the board, please step up, identify yourselves, and speak your mind.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Shenburn. I've been a lifelong member, resident of Harper Woods, basically, other than a few years. I was moved here in 51, or in fact 52. I was born in 51, and been here most of my life. I graduated from here. My daughter graduated from here, and I like hearing what's going on with the school system. Okay, and I might thought about running for school board, but I'm in so many other things in the city that I basically almost don't have any time. Okay, I like what I hear, what's going on over at the elementaries, and actually I got my grandson enrolled in the Halloween deal. Okay, he's only 21 months, but you might as well start him, right? The only thing that bothers me is I see you guys doing a great job. I see the teachers and the principals all doing a great job. I'm president of the Harper Woods Dads Club. By the way, I did get one new member, okay, whose son is on the junior high football team. I'd like to see more members. And that's basically what I'm trying to get to here. I see my mom was PTA president over at Beacon and up here at the high school, and back then you had 2 separate schools, K through 6. So I'm going back. But the parents were really, really involved. The school system is doing great things. You guys, administrators, teachers, parents need to be more involved. It's disheartening when I'm at a football game and I have a parent say to me, and this is a varsity football, I thought there'd be more parents here supporting these kids. I should have put my son in another school. That's from a parent. Son's on the varsity team. That's the kind of thing we don't need to hear. I like to see the people in this school system. Parents need for a school system to be really, really great. And I'm not saying we're not. I'm saying we're doing a good job. But for us to be really, really great and being in the positions that I am in the system here, and the dad's club and stuff like that, who's struggling to get people involved, parents need to be involved, period. Your child. Goes back to citizenship, getting them there on time. That's important. I was involved with my daughter. Unfortunately, my wife died young, and I was a single parent, but these 2 young ladies will tell you, I was there all the time with my daughter going through. And that's what makes things great. When the school and the parents work together and they come to things, support. We should have a parents club, not only in Beacon, but in Tyrone, not joined together. I think that's great. But parents, we need you involved. We need your kids involved. We need you involved with your kids, teaching them good citizenship. I'm also a scout leader. That teaches good citizenship. In fact, I teach citizenship in the community, nation, and in the world. And to yours about voting, I tell every one of my scouts, you need to vote, just like you said. If you vote and the opposite person gets in, no matter who it is you voted for, if the opposite person gets in and he does something you don't like, sorry. You don't have a right to complain because you didn't open your voice and you didn't let it known, okay? But please, parents, I'm asking you to be more involved in the school system. On another note, Scouts will be handing out can-do the first Saturday of November, picking up on the 8th. Normally when Scouts do can-do or food drive, it goes to Gleaners. Unfortunately, people don't realize that in order for the different cupboards to get it back from Gleaners, they have to pay a little bit of money. So we cut out the middle guy. Most of our scout troops are starting to do that, going to the cupboards in their community. Our cupboard that we supply is the Lutheran Church on Kelly and State Fair, which is our area. So we also put money, food aside for several families in Harper Woods. And we do stuff like that. We do a can drive, so please put out cans. Hopefully not odd beer bottles, because those are hard to return. That money goes to help a couple of families that we take under our wing. And we buy toys or whatever's needed for those families. And we do that every year. And we also do this for the city. Now, on the other hand, dance club, we're about sports, and we do stuff. I'm doing fairly good this year.
Good.
We had a good homecoming. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was with the Scouts. But we had a good turnout. We had a good amount of money. I'm doing better in money this year. I'm probably going to be able to help a little bit more with sports equipment or something that comes up where it helps save on your end. And that's the point. Like they did a candy drive. That helps. Dad's Club, we do for sports. We also give out scholarships. But we also try to reach out to the community. We also give money for the cookies for the tree lighting. We also sponsor a softball, girls softball team for the city.
Yeah. You folks do a great job, John. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for your remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address the board?
Hi,
Could you-
everybody. My name is Susan Dunn. I'm actually a candidate for the judicial race this year. Some of you I know. I've known Dave Keene for years and years, and Brian and Joan. But for the rest of you that I haven't had the pleasure, I think Mr. Dennis, I've seen you around a lot.
Back when I had tan hair before.
And Mrs. Gottlieb, and I don't know if you remember, but you had my son for third grade, Tyler Chickanowski.
Oh my gosh, I knew you were familiar.
And that's when before you were Principal Goslin, and you were one of his favorites, and I'm not just saying that. And he's a junior now. I know, are we getting old?
Yeah.
But I did just want to introduce myself and let you know that if I do become judge, I do plan on incorporating some school activities in with the court. I do a lot of work in Allen Park as well as Harper Woods District Court, and in Allen Park they actually hold court in the auditorium in the high school, one of the Catholic high schools actually in the city, and I think the kids really enjoy it, and I think it's important for the kids, especially in the high school, to understand that there's consequences for their actions, you know, that your things can come back on you, and how important it is to be law-abiding and responsible for your behavior. So I do plan on incorporating or working in conjunction with the schools if I do become judge. But I just wanted to introduce myself. Anybody have any questions for me? Yes.
What are you doing now?
I'm an attorney. I'm in private practice. Brian and I do a lot of the same kind of thing. I do a lot of criminal law. I also do a lot of juvenile law, though delinquency and abuse and neglect. I do some divorce work too, so I do a variety. I used to be with Wayne County.
I was kind of meaning as far as the school is concerned.
Oh, what do I do as far as the schools are concerned?
Because this is my first time ever seeing you.
Oh, yeah, well, my kids are actually in the Grosse Pointe school system now because I live on Beaufait right by Popard Elementary. Actually, Mr. Selburn invited me up here, so why don't you come up and introduce yourself? There's some people that haven't met you like you. So I don't do a lot with the Harper Woods schools now, but you know, if I'm judge, I think it'd be a whole different ballgame. I'd be in a different capacity, able to work with the schools.
The reason I asked you that is because, like, you mentioned Brian several times. Brian's involved, you know, before he did stuff. And that's kind of, you know, I guess my question to you is, you know, if we become judge, well, what about the kids now? You know, are they worthy of your attention and your time now? What if you don't become judge? You know, what if maybe next year or the next term comes around and whatever? You know, do you see Harper Woods students as somebody that needs to be involved with you now? I mean, I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, it is, and you know, I would just say, you know, I guess there's only so much of me to go around too. I mean, I've done a lot for the band in the Grosse Pointe schools because my son was in the band. You know, I'm a single parent, I have 2 teenagers and a law practice, and there's just so much I can do, I guess. I think, you know, being a judge, you'd be in a more public position, and you'd be in an actual position where you'd have the capacity to do more. As a private citizen, I don't know that I would have as many opportunities.
So it sounds like you're planning to partner with the school district?
I would. Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea to incorporate the court, some kind of partnership with the school district. You know, and it could be the Grosse Pointe schools and the Harper Woods schools, because we do have 2 districts in the city. So, yeah, the more the better. Anything else?
Good luck.
Well,
Good luck.
thank you.
Thank you for coming,
And
Ms. Dunn.
and that's the
Thank you
same,
for coming.
Oh, and you know, I would just like to reiterate the superintendent's comments, and we all have to get out there and vote.
that's the same
Who you
election,
vote for.
that's the same election that Mr. Biederwolf spoke so eloquently about.
Yes, absolutely. November 4th, we all have to get out there and vote.
Okay,
Indeed.
thank you.
It's another important race. Thank you for highlighting it.
Okay, anybody else care to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Collins. I have 4 children that go here and 1 that goes to Beacon. I'm a volunteer coach for our boys middle school football team. And I wanted to find out about, getting some new uniforms. A lot of the uniforms that we do have are hand-me-downs from the varsity team. And a lot of our uniforms are in disarray. We have numbers and stuff falling off. And I wanted to find out about, if that's in the budget, about getting that. Also, I wanted to comment as far as like with the traffic issue at the schools, as far as like some of the kids being late. There's a big issue at Beacon as far as, cars being lined up, and it's moving slow. And so I believe that's why a lot of kids are coming in late, because there's such a traffic issue. The streets are narrow, everybody's rushing, trying to get their child in, and needing to find out a different strategy to get things done. So everybody gets in on time, safely, and being able to maneuver better.
Mr. Collins, I can ask, certainly, I know you as a parent, I know you're on campus office. Have you seen the traffic pattern here on this campus improve?
Somewhat. Somewhat.
Okay.
Somewhat. There's definitely been a better improvement here as far as the traffic. I guess again because you have 2 ways in and out now. I do realize though that you do close that down after a certain time, as far as that gets locked up. Also noticed that the on-site police officer comes out and actually barricades certain areas so that there is not a traffic jam, and the kids can move back and forth safely and to get to their destination.
Okay, all right. We'll investigate further. I know, as one person, I appreciate you coming tonight, and we'll do some investigating and see what we can do.
Thank you, but I would say there is a solution. It's called leave earlier. I go down to the courts in the morning downtown, and I fight rush hour traffic every day, and the only solution is to leave earlier.
I mean, leaving early is not, is definitely a part of it, but you still have those that are trying to get there, and there's still a pile of cars that come off of the school side and are literally in the street on Beacon, which causes another issue. And so having, I don't know, maybe the police out there or whatever, I don't know, but having someone else to be able to allocate that situation to maneuver so that everybody moves safely, efficiently, that's needed. Because especially coming during this winter, if we have another winter like we did, that's going to be a big mess. And it doesn't make a difference how early you get, there's going to be a mess.
No question, enrollment's up, and that is a contributing factor. I can't make any promises, but we'll see what we can do.
Sure.
And to your first question, I did meet with a parent who actually is hoping to start actually a middle school parents club with the sole intent of helping with the middle school athletic program. So we're working on that.
Okay. Awesome.
Appreciate you coming, sir.
Yes, we did.
Congratulations.
30-14.
All right, good job, coach. Thanks.
He's a good guy.
Great guy.
Yes.
Leave earlier.
It's different. I dropped my nephew off there Friday mornings, and it is hell.
Is this a single file line? Is it just a single file going into Beacon to drop them at that door?
3.
Joni, let me handle that, please. It's a free-for-all. I'm telling you, it's a complete free-for-all at Beacon and Tyrone before and after school.
Can we just conclude the public participation? Is there anyone else that wants to address the board? All right, seeing none. Now we'll move on to matters of interest to board members. Go at it, ladies.
Okay, Jill, what else do you have that you can tell us?
You can walk if you can.
Carpool.
There you go.
Our morning traffic has helped out with breakfast being open
school, I always tell parents, park a block away and have them walk a block.
Really?
I take children on my blacktop at 7:30, 7:25, 7:30, which is a good 20 minutes before school starts. And if you come at that time, you don't have a problem. If you try to get there at 7:45, you have a problem. So,
And if it's,
Brian, you nailed it, They come off of Beaconsfield and they come off of Woodside. So they're kind of merging onto Woodside and they're coming in. I think we do the best jobs there is to do when you have 400 and 31 kids plus preschool. So, I mean.
and what happens if the kids do come early and it happens to be raining or excessively cold, what happens?
We wait inside, absolutely. It's
So the kids don't have to stand out on the blacktop in the rain?
Anything under 25 degrees, they wait inside.
And if it's raining?
Of course. This morning, we waited inside. So, I do, I understand what Jill's saying. I mean, there's a lot of cars and, one person who gets out of their car or doesn't pull down to the cones. And, they say a couple problems, a couple people not following that procedure backs everything up. So, we were built when they were walkers. Nobody walks.
And bicycles.
There's no way to make a parking lot big enough, so.
You have to take out the baseball fields.
That's Little League, that's sacred ground up there.
It is.
It's not a parking issue, it's just a traffic issue.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
not, we're fine with
follow
parking.
issue. It's a follow
We're
the
fine
rules
with
issue.
parking, we made changes, we added that egress onto Crestland. I mean, we're doing what we can, and
Enrollment's up, and that's a contributing factor as well, but it's a good challenge to have.
Any other members have anything they want to bring up?
Yes, the library is having a market on Saturday, November 1st from 1 to 5. They're going to have jewelry, apparel, accessories, photographs, and other fine arts. There'll be home decor and more. And in addition, we're opening up the small museum up there. So do bring your children to go through the museum and you shop at this market. It's the first time the library's tried something of this nature. They even have somebody who volunteered to bring cookies, and I strongly suspect it's a woman on our street who has won ribbon after ribbon at the state fair in years past for her cookies, and they're to die for. So do come.
Anyone else?
just another thank you to Beaumont for their help
Right.
with the Tyrone playground. It's, first I heard of it, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just to piggyback on John's statement, we do have a parent engagement specialist that's here, been here 4 years now. Did you know that?
All I know is when I walk around, especially football games or any of the other campuses, I hear parents say, why aren't parents more involved?
Well, we do
Good
have
example.
somebody
For
that.
example, there's a young man for the whole summer practiced football up at Deacon's in their field. And I said, oh, you're on our football field. He says, no. I go to Warren Woods High because parents don't give a darn here in Harper Woods about sports or the kids. That's a kid's thing.
Thanks for that negativity.
I'm asking, this
No.
is somebody who's here to help you. So if you do not know who that is, I would say get with that person and she would be happy to work with you to get parents involved. It's one of her specific reasons to be here.
I want to welcome Ms. Collier. I hope you realize what an important position you're taking in the city of Harper Woods. It really is a major position. You're one of the most important people in this city. You will be, next Wednesday. And just to address the issue of parent involvement, I was at that presentation on Friday where she met with the community and we could ask her questions. You remember the first question I asked you? Maybe you don't, because there were a lot of questions.
First question you asked me was, do you know anything about data?
No. That was when you and I spoke privately.
Oh, in the whole group?
When the whole group, the first question I asked you was, do you have any ideas to improve our parent involvement? And she said she does, and she outlined some of those ideas. So there's our go-to person, one of our go-to people, right there. There's the other one. They both have ideas. They're going to brainstorm, and we're going to see the results of those ideas. Anybody else? Okay, looks like we're adjourned, 10 to 9.